Joined today by Senior Paramedic with Magen David Adom, Aryeh Myers. Aryeh, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thank you very much.
We've seen what seems to be crazy devastation in Israel in certain areas in the past 4 days. Can you let the audience know a little bit about what Israel's been facing on the ground and what Magen David Adom is doing in response?
Absolutely. Starting from 3 o'clock on Friday morning, when the country was woken up by air raid sirens, that was just to wake everybody up to make them realize that there is something big happening. We had actually a few hours to prepare before any retaliation attacks from Iran. That gave us time to ensure that as a national EMS organization, we were able to mobilize our entire fleet, our entire staff, 35,000 staff and volunteers, 90% of whom are volunteers, made sure that every single one of our emergency vehicles was manned, some 1,800 ambulances, in total about 2,500 emergency vehicles, rapid response motorbikes, cars, specialized buses with intensive care capabilities, everything that we needed to get going to make sure that we were able to respond to what we expected to be a very serious event. And then when the rockets or the missiles started to hit Israel, we realized we're dealing with something very, very different here, something we haven't dealt with in the past. We're talking about missiles with 1,000 pound warheads, if not more, causing huge devastation, huge amounts of damage. And unfortunately, also, several lives have been lost. Over 20 people have been killed by these missiles. Again, David Adom has treated over 700 people for injuries of all kinds. And whilst we've been doing all of that, we have to ensure, obviously, the welfare of the people of Israel and also the welfare of our EMTs and paramedics who are seeing sights and scenes that are very, very difficult to cope with.
Obviously, the world saw the devastation on October 7th. There have been so many videos and so many pictures and really unspeakable. You talk about the size of the warheads and the impact it's making on the buildings. Can you describe for the audience a bit of the difference between what was seen on October 7th and what is seen when an 1,000 pound missile lands in Tel Aviv?
So October 7th, we saw a lot of small arms fire. We saw a lot of RPGs, which is much more localized damage. Whereas what we're seeing now is buildings that are collapsing. We're seeing the site from where the rocket or where the missile hits. You're seeing 2 blocks of devastation as opposed to something very localized. And whilst the Hamas rockets were causing damage, and again, we're killing people, we're injuring people, the scale is very, very different now. When you arrive at a site, then you've got 2 blocks to search, not just one building or not just one area of 20 square feet. You're talking about a much bigger area and much bigger capacity for damage and for injury. We had an event, one of the rocket strikes that happened in central Israel just a couple of days ago, where the vast majority of the injuries were in the building where the missile hit, but there was also someone who was killed in the building next door just from the blast injuries. So these are things that we need to really think about. We need to really take into account. We need to understand that our teams are going into very risky sites, not just because the building itself is unsafe, but also because we have the risk of further missile attacks whilst they're at the scene. All of these things have to be taken into account, and it's been uh, very complicated, very complex to deal with. Nevertheless, like I said, with our thousands and thousands of volunteers, they're ready to go. They want to be there. They want to be part of rescuing people, of saving people's lives as much as they possibly can.
A lot of the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel media is sitting there on Telegram cheering for what's going on and paying very close attention to reports in terms of impacts and things like that. How does Magen David Adom make sure that they get the word out to volunteers, that people actually show up and are able to help, uh, and balance that with not tipping the hand to foreign actors that are looking to take advantage of that information?
So one of the big advantages of Magen David Adom is that we are an apolitical, non-religious organization. We have every single sector of society is represented amongst our staff and volunteers. Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, everything, everyone from everywhere. You'll hear multiple different languages spoken by our staff. and everyone works together as one team, and we respond to anyone who needs us, irrespective of who they are. One of these rocket attacks, these missile attacks that we had over the last couple of days, struck home in an Arab city, in an Israeli Arab city called Tamra, and unfortunately, four members of a family were killed in that attack. The teams that were responding, I guarantee, weren't looking at the fact that it was in an Arab town or it was an Arab family, and there's a pretty good chance that the people who were responding, the Magen David Adom paramedics and EMTs, were members of that community. We find very, very often that the people who are responding actually live in the areas where they're working. And as far as we look at our role in society is to help everyone who needs that help, wherever they might be, and whatever they might believe.
Understood. I guess the heart of my question though was about in terms of like on Telegram, right? So if Magen David Adom's responding and people are taking videos, or do you are your channels encrypted? How do you make sure that Iran doesn't intercept Magen David Adom's response, right? Because there's been a lot of concern about the IDF giving away encouraging people not to publish where they're going or to say where the missile impacted. So how does Magen David Adom balance trying to bring and coordinate emergency response with not giving Iran coordinates of where they actually impacted?
So obviously, the technology we use for our dispatch systems, for our command and control systems, there is a lot of cybersecurity involved in that as well. We obviously have to send teams to the right locations. What we're asking our teams to do is to also act responsibly and not to start sharing on social media exact locations in exactly the same way that we're asking the whole of the general population. Don't share precise information of where there have been missile hits, anything such like. And we have to ensure that we follow those same rules exactly. We want to make sure that we can arrive at the scene and treat whoever needs treating, but without having to have those concerns on top of what we're doing as well.
And for those of us that are not in the country, it can be a little bit difficult or challenging to understand the mood. What is the mood and the attitude like of the volunteers and of the people at the scene? Uh, it has to be quite traumatic seeing something with such a huge impact. How do people keep going on a daily basis?
The last 20 months, since October 7th, the mood has been it's been very difficult. People are seeing sights and scenes that are very complex to deal with. They are very emotional. They are often very personal. Many times that we've had our paramedics and our EMTs treating people that they know, members of their family, people on the same kibbutz, and that has a big impact. We have systems in place to help ensure that we're checking in on our staff to make sure that they're okay. But we know, again, the people coming into this role know that what they're going to be dealing with is potentially difficult sites. But if you're asking about the general mood in the country, I'll give you just an example. One of the first things we have to do as an organization is we're not just the EMS, we're not just the pre-hospital emergency medical care, but we're also the National Blood Bank. The blood services of Israel is run by Magen David Adom, and we put a call out to the public to say we have a very serious situation here, and we need to ensure that the hospitals receive the blood supplies that they need to be able to treat the people that we're actually evacuating to those hospitals. And we put that call out despite the fact that there were missile alerts, and in exactly the same way as we had on October 7th and for the first days after that, we had people coming out in their hundreds and even thousands across the country coming to donate blood to ensure that those supplies remain uninterrupted. Those supplies, those donations are then taken to a secure facility that we built to ensure that all the labs, it's a unique building as far as blood banks are concerned. It's built underground, it's protected to ensure that the labs can continue working, whatever the threat outside might be. And that's where the public comes into it. One of the things that I think we're good at as a nation is coming together in a crisis. And we've seen, unfortunately, we're very experienced in that, especially over the last just over a year and a half. But we're seeing that I think helps build resilience as well. When you feel like you're doing something, it changes the mood a little bit. And whilst we're trying to kind of remain upbeat, it is sometimes difficult. And what we do as an organization, A, is to ensure that our staff and our volunteers get breaks in between their shifts. We're not leaving them on duty for 72 hours running. We can't do that. It's not humanly possible. So we ensure that we're rotating shifts. We ensure that their welfare is taken care of. In certain places, we're helping look after families that need that care in place as well. And it's just something that we have to do to make sure that we can provide an excellent service to the state of Israel.
Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much to all the volunteers, and thank you for providing this update. Hopefully, it provides a little bit of an insight into those who are abroad and are just eagerly praying for Israel, praying that everything comes to an end victoriously and soon, and that the MDA services can be contained to the regular course of life and not involving terrorist attacks or missiles from foreign nations. So, God willing, we'll see that very, very soon. Aryeh, I really appreciate you taking the time and providing this
Thank you
insight.
very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.